Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the meeting of Cabinet today, Wednesday, the 21st of September 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in the meeting, what I'd like to do is just for all of us to pay a moment of respect and remembrance to Her Majesty the Queen, whose funeral was on Monday, and this is the first opportunity that this authority and the Cabinet of this authority will have to formally recognise that, given the period of mourning. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask us all to stand for a period of silence for 2 minutes. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Mr. Bradbury, do we have any apologies?
Good morning, Chairman. No, I'm not in receipt of any apologies for this morning's meeting.
Agenda item number 2 is declarations of interest in accordance with Standing Order 16. Does anybody have any declarations of interest? No. Thank you. Third item is decision notice of the meeting held on the 20th of July 2022. Can I have your approval that represents a correct record of the decisions made? Unanimous. Agenda item 4 is the leaders' update. Ladies and gentlemen, there has been a real outpouring of emotion and gratitude to Queen Elizabeth II over the period of mourning. Her dedication, resilience, and public service were a lesson to us all, and she will be dearly missed by many across Staffordshire. We have a new king who will bring a new style to the British monarchy. I know we all wish him well in the role and look forward to welcoming him to Staffordshire at the earliest opportunity. The new government will soon announce a mini budget with the aims of boosting growth in the economy and helping people with the rising cost of living. We know that many are struggling across Staffordshire with rising energy bills and prices going up in supermarkets, shops and petrol stations. Therefore, the energy price cap announced by the new Prime Minister this month is particularly welcome. We also want people in Staffordshire to know that there is help available in their local area. Over the coming weeks, Councillor Wilson will be leading on a publicity campaign directing people to help from the county and district councils and in communities. One of the most important responsibilities of the County Council is providing care for frail and elderly in later years. Government reforms to the care system are due to come in force next year. And while the headlines were positive for many, for example, caps on the total cost you pay for care, the details are far from straightforward. And for councils like ours, there is a huge uncertainty over the funding we will receive to enact these changes. We estimate that we will need around 160 new staff to make them a reality. So with councils across the region, we are in discussion with our MPs and with government to propose a realistic way forward that resolves the huge challenges in social care. The County Council is committed to supporting everyone to lead healthy and independent lives as possible, for as long as possible. Key to reducing health complications such as type 2 diabetes in later life is to try and keep to a healthy weight and make exercise part of your routine. We are delighted, therefore, that Staffcha has been chosen to take part in a pilot social prescribing scheme. It will support around 6,000 residents in Newcastle to walk and cycle more. Another great way to improve your health is to stop smoking. Kicking the habit can be a real challenge, so next month's Stoptober campaign gives smokers the help they need to quit now, improve their health, and also save money. Finally, as we head into the autumn, I urge people across Staffordshire to get their COVID booster and flu jab. Everyone over the age of 50 is eligible for the booster and flu jab, as well as others in high-risk groups. While it feels the pandemic is receding to the rearview mirror, vaccines remain the best way to protect ourselves, one another, and the NHS, especially during winter. So please go online and book yours when you're eligible. And so to our next item, which is agenda item number 5, minutes of the meeting of the Property Subcommittee held on the 26th of August 2022 and the 7th of September 2022. Can I have those as a correct record of the meeting? Yes, that's agreed. Agenda item number 6 is Staffcha Means Back to Business oral update brought to you by the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Economy and Skills, Councillor Philip White. Councillor White.
Thank you very much, Leader. So as we enter the autumn, global events, particularly the war in Ukraine and the related increases in fuel and energy prices, will continue to present a number of challenges to our local economy. The Bank of England are now predicting that the country will enter a recession later this year, and although it remains to be seen whether that will happen and what the severity and duration of that might be, and it is very welcome that government have recently announced support for households on energy bills, which are expected to reduce inflation and the key driver of those economic challenges. These are difficult times for businesses, and it is important that we as the County Council continue to play our proper part in supporting those businesses, as we have done throughout the period of the pandemic. Now, our support is local support. It's for national government to tackle the primary causes of the challenges we have at the moment, insofar as they're able to. And so we await, in addition to the announcements on household energy bills, today's announcement on support for businesses with their energy costs, and also the mini-budget at the end of this week. But here in Staffordshire, we have got a strong track record of supporting our businesses. The Staffordshire Means Back to Business scheme, recently rebranded as Staffordshire Means Business, has supported many hundreds of our businesses over the last couple of years and supported the creation of over 400 apprenticeships, something that I'm particularly proud of, the apprenticeships, a new career and a new start for a person with every one of those. Cabinet will also shortly be considering our Startup and Step Up business support package, which is aimed at helping those who want to start a new business, but also grow businesses that are in the first 5 years of their life. And there's a very strong focus within that on business resilience and helping good businesses to continue to thrive when they do face challenges. The need for this support is illustrated by our universal credit figures, which I always give at these meetings. And the claimant count for the last recorded month, which is August, did see an increase in Staffordshire of 200 claimants amongst the general population and 120 claimants within that amongst young people aged 18 to 24. Now, that does mean that our claimant rate in Staffordshire remains at 2.7% of the working age population, the same as it was before. We're still well below the regional and national averages. So employment in Staffordshire remains strong, but nonetheless, we have to be mindful of trends. And so there is a note of caution there to say that we do have to be careful that we are providing the support that our businesses need where we can. Despite that claimant count figure, the strength of our local economy is also illustrated in the August employment and universal credit figures, in that during the same period we saw a 5% rise in our job vacancies in Staffordshire, so 900 additional vacancies. And it's important to weigh that in the balance with those 200 additional people seeking universal credit. The overall number of job vacancies in Staffordshire is now slightly over 20,000. So that illustrates that dual challenge that we have in Staffordshire. We have enormously dynamic businesses who are creating jobs in sectors such as manufacturing, particularly trades such as welding, metalworking, engineers generally, in logistics and in hospitality, to name but a few of the areas where we have strong demand. But it's important that we're matching people with those jobs, both to continue to fuel economic growth, but also to fuel the lives of individuals who want, firstly, a job, but also a career and a better job. With that in mind, at our last Cabinet meeting, we considered our new jobs brokerage scheme, which is a really important endeavour to fill a gap, as we try to do here in Staffordshire, between the work of national organisations such as Department for Work and Pensions, Job Centre Plus, and the work of private sector recruitment organisations. And that gap is a local service that matches local employers to individuals seeking work locally, but crucially also matches them up to a skills package where they need it. So the occupations that I mentioned previously, most of them are skilled occupations, and the service that we're developing here in Staffordshire, which will be rolling out over the next few months, meets that need to add that third point to the triangle, the person, the vacancy, but also the skills package. A really important piece of work that we're doing to support people and businesses here. Finally, I'll mention investment activity, which is another area which illustrates the strength of the Staffordshire economy and the confidence that business has in investing in our place. So Cabinet, some meetings ago, a few meetings ago earlier this year, agreed to provide some funding through this county council for the development of Chatterley Valley Business Park alongside the A500 in Newcastle under Lyme. We did that in partnership with Newcastle under Lyme Borough Council, and also with Harworth Group, who are the developers of that site. And I'm pleased to announce that we've now entered into our final agreement with them for the development of that site, which will create around 1,700 new jobs. It's a £90 million private sector investment into our county. In addition to that, just down the road in Stafford, the Pets at Home national headquarters is reaching its completion, and that will be generating 800 new jobs, a large proportion of them head office jobs here in Stafford. And finally, we're also very pleased that we're experiencing exceptionally strong interest in our serviced employment land on the I-54 site in the south of the county. So 3 schemes there that represent between the millions of pounds of private sector investment, with a little bit of help from the public sector on 2 of those, but principally private sector investment, creating thousands more jobs and demonstrating the key ingredient in the Staffordshire economy, which is confidence. We have great confidence in our economy. We have great confidence in our approach to supporting those businesses and the people who work in them where we can, where it's relevant and appropriate for us to do so. But overall, we have great confidence in the Staffordshire economy. It continues to do well despite the challenges, and we will continue to work with our businesses and our employees to support their activities. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. I don't see anybody indicating, so thank you very much indeed for that update report. Very, very helpful, and some good news in there. Agenda item number 7 is the review of the agreement for the provision of adult social care assessment and case management and occupational therapy in Staffordshire. That's quite a title. Councillor Jessel, it's with you.
I'm glad you read that out, Leader. Yes, thank you very much. The proposal is to continue the existing Section 75 agreement that we have with Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust. This takes up the option of extending the existing agreement by 2 years until the 31st of March 2025. The report sets out the background to the current services provided. The recommendation to extend the current agreement is based on 3 key criteria: the quality of the service, Whilst there have been challenges due to increased demand, COVID and recruitment and retention of staff, performance has held up well and continues to be the subject of ongoing performance management. But in terms of the user, the patient, our customers, the service is valued and is considered to be of good quality. Continuity of service at this particular moment in time, I believe, is extremely important, not only in managing the ongoing increase in demand and recovery from COVID pandemic, but also with the forthcoming adult social care reforms and the enhanced assurance framework. I believe that it is extremely important to have that continuity of service rather than going through the disruption at this point of going out to tender. And MPFT are committed to helping us with the enhanced assurance framework to ensure that wherever possible we get the best possible rating by the CQC as and when that inspection comes. The final one is, I believe it still delivers the best value for money for all our taxpayers, and the financial contribution is set out in Table 1 of the report. It is for this reason that I believe it's a pragmatic, common sense approach that delivers that quality of service, that continuity and value for money, and it's for that reason that I believe the recommendations in the report should be adopted. I will read the recommendations out, Leader, after answering any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Jessel. Does anybody have any questions for the portfolio holder? No. If you could read out the recommendations, please.
Indeed, Leader. The recommendations is that Cabinet A approve that the Council extend the current Section 75 agreement with MPFT for 2 years from the 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2025 to continue to provide adult social care assessment and case management and occupational therapy in Staffordshire. B, to authorise the Director of Health and Care and Director of Corporate Services, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, to finalise and implement the extension of the Section 75 agreement for adult social care assessment and case management and occupational therapy in Staffordshire. I so move, Chairman.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendations. All those in favour?
Agreed.
It's unanimous. Moving on to agenda item 8, contract for the supply of electricity and associated services. Call off from YPO Framework 791. Always snappily entitled reports from Councillor DeVille, and a snappily dressed Councillor DeVille to present the report as well. It's always surprised me, Councillor DeVille, how the size of these contracts in monetary terms, so it's very important that we keep on top of these, and I know that you're doing a great job of doing so. So if you could take us through the report, that'd be great.
Absolutely, Chairman, thank you. And you rightly mentioned, Chairman, in your introductory comments around the worry and concern around the rising cost of energy to us all. So you're right, Chairman, this is a massively important report that I'm bringing today. And with the current situation, with the current cost of energy, and more importantly around the volatility of the market, it's absolutely essential that we take urgent action to ensure that we have flexible purchasing arrangements in place to enable us to achieve very best value for our Staffordshire taxpayers in, I'm sure we'll all agree, extremely challenging times. The annual value, Chairman, of electricity is changing from a relatively stable cost base to one that's extremely volatile, and it's increasing significantly. You may be surprised to know that the current electricity spend on our corporate buildings, schools and other sites is £6 million. So you're right, Chairman, that's the importance of the decision that we make this morning, colleagues. I wish to propose today that we utilise the Yorkshire Purchasing Organisation, who you'll remember we've used before and do use. to provide electricity and the associated services for the period 1st of April 2023 until 31st of March 2027. So in an extremely uncertain market, colleagues, the only certainty is that costs will increase and will probably increase very, very quickly. So central purchasing bodies such as Yorkshire Purchasing Organisation offer a number of purchasing solutions. It provides, importantly, provides flexible price contracts. And what this flexibility provides is the opportunity to purchase our electricity at optimum times when prices are at the lowest. So this then provides volume supply at a stable price, and I'm sure you'll agree that's very, very important. So as well as providing stability, it also provides flexibility and provides definite benefits of economies of scale. Colleagues, the purchase of energy is a massive challenge to everyone. The leader mentioned it in his introductory statement. It affects businesses massively. It affects hospitals, schools. It affects Staffordshire households. It's a massive ongoing challenge to us. And it's a real concern, and I'm grateful for the officers for the amount of work that they've put into this report and the amount of work that they put into the future of our purchasing arrangements for energy and utilities. I've had intense discussions with our officers about this crucial framework, and I'm fully satisfied that we're absolutely doing the right thing at the right time. This report was brought forward. It's so urgent that it was brought forward. I think the urgency of getting some assurance on energy prices affects us all. I'm totally focused, as you'll know, colleagues, on achieving best value for our Staffordshire taxpayers. And this framework provides best value with necessary reassurances and flexibility. Additionally, colleagues, and importantly, I've always said that carbon reduction should and has become a part of our everyday lives. It's part of our day job. So we will, within this framework, be purchasing green electricity. I'm also delighted, Chairman, to report that through our energy efficiency measures, our corporate estate has reduced its energy consumption by 25% in the last 5 years. That's fantastic, but there's still much more to do, colleagues. Further reductions, of course, are an important part of our ongoing property strategy. And finally, Chairman, if I may, as a measure of our awareness of our energy usage and efficiency, 60% now, 60% of our lighting is LED lighting. And I think that's incredible. Again, more to do, but I think that's a great move towards a green Staffordshire. That's practical progress, and it signifies again our total awareness to the planet and to a green Staffordshire. Chairman, I have 2 recommendations which I'm happy to read out, but I'll take any questions or points first.
Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, completely endorse this and the comments made by Mark Deville, and I think that the contractor will supply 100% of green electricity, which is, as Councillor Deville said, is helping to reduce our carbon emissions. And of course, you know, the estate, the corporate estate has been moving in that direction for a number of years. As Councillor Deville said, the 25% reduction between 2017 and 2022 has contributed to the reductions we've made towards our net zero target of 2050. And I think there's an ongoing process there which we need to work through to reduce even further. But this is part of doing that and gets us on the way to doing that. And 100% renewable energy, green energy, is what we should be looking for. Thank you.
Councillor Jessel.
Yes, Thank you very much. I think the organisation as a whole needs congratulations on reducing energy or electricity consumption by 25% in a relatively short period of time. I think that is in itself a significant achievement. The one question I would ask, and I must admit, probably Councillor DeVille may not know the answer. As we know, this report, and we see many adverts for companies selling 100% green energy, as it is an understanding by the public generally that that is solar and wind. As we know, that isn't the case, that there has to be the backup supplementary energy sources. And I think it would be really helpful to understand what is the total makeup of the energy that we will consume, because it probably has an element of perhaps gas or nuclear power. Because I think the public need to understand that whilst we are moving very rapidly to greener sources of energy, there is always that, what they call the base load, that has to be provided at the moment by other sources. And I think there are enthusiasts, shall I put them that way, Extinction Rebellion and the like, who seem to think that we can exist purely on solar and on wind. The country would come to a grinding halt. And I think, in actual fact, it's incumbent upon us to help the public understand a more balanced view. I'm totally supportive and have championed moving to net zero by 2050. But I think we have to understand the practicalities of it, and I think it would be really helpful if we could have a better understanding of that. Thank you very much, Leader.
Councillor Parry.
Thank you. I would echo the comments by Councillor Jessel and Councillor Tagg on the remarkable achievement of reducing energy consumption in our corporate buildings by 25%, which is a good, I would say a very good start. But in most organisations with the size of estate we've got, you would see that as something, as a starting point in your targets to reduce energy consumption even further. I think people who are listening or watching this discussion this morning might be puzzled by the fact that we have gone for a procurement of our energy that is not fixed, it's open, and in a sense allows you to buy, and I think the words were, when prices are low. I'm not quite sure when that is, because there is only one way that prices are likely to go over the next 12 months or so. And people receiving bills now are already seeing in their businesses and in their homes massive increases in the bills that they're receiving. We're predicting here on a £60 million energy cost for our corporate buildings, a 2.4 million increase impact on our budget, which some might think, well, that's a modest increase compared to the 80% that we're seeing in other areas. So just for the tape, as it were, could you explain to us why the benefits of a flexible market, a spot market, is preferable in a volatile market over a fix? Is that possible?
Has anybody else got any further points for Councillor DeVille? Councillor DeVille, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, colleagues, for your comments. Councillor Jessel, you're right that we should consider the term green energy, and I'm well aware that my responsibilities are on carbon reduction, absolutely within our property portfolio. Also, always achieving very best value for our customers. So you're right to raise that. Councillor Tagg, you make a very good point that, and Councillor Parry also made the point, Chairman, that this is only a starting point and there's still much to do. And I can assure you, again, colleagues, that there's no complacency in the work that myself and my officers will do in achieving a green Staffordshire and achieving very best value. When we look at the rather frightening future of the cost of energy. Councillor Parry, you're quite right. Firstly, there aren't available a fixed price solution to this. So we've got to go with the flexible pricing system. Now, what that will give us, as it said in the report, is the opportunity, certainly benefits of flexibility and economies of scale, but also that ability for the Yorkshire Purchasing Group to purchase energy when it is at its cheapest point. Now, the point that you make about energy only increasing in the future, I think that's quite right. We had a challenge, we have a real challenge on the future of our purchasing, and I think it's right that we sign up to this purchasing agreement now, that we tie it up now. To do nothing isn't an option, and I think this is the most cost beneficial way forward. Whilst there's still uncertainties, Councillor Parry's exactly right, whilst there are still uncertainties, but this enables us to keep our finger very, very much on the pulse, to watch the markets very, very closely, and to purchase when it's at its lowest price. And to give us some assurance moving forward, because the uncertainty of purchasing future of all utilities is extremely uncertain. So any certainty that we can get, I'm sure will be welcomed by Staffordshire County Council and will be welcomed by the taxpayers of Staffordshire, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor DeVille. If you could give us the recommendations, please.
Indeed, Chairman. There's two recommendations. I recommend today that Cabinet approve the approach for procuring, awarding and entering into an electricity and associated services contract through the Yorkshire Purchasing Organisation framework for the period of 1st of April 2023 until the 31st of March 2027 with Empower Business Solutions. And secondly, colleagues, that we agree that the Deputy Chief Executive and Director of Corporate Services be given delegated authority to approve the contract award and delegated signatory of the contract. They're the two recommendations this morning, Chairman.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendations. All those in favour?
Agreed.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on then to agenda item number 9 is the Staffcha Electoral Review Council size submission. It feels like we're going from one extreme to the other. So talking about multi-million pounds worth of contracts to how big the council is going to be for the future. But this is an important subject because it's how people are represented and it's our turn with the Local Government Boundary Commission for England to have a review of the numbers of county councillors that we have here in Staffordshire and also take a review of the numbers of residences across the county so that we can be in a good position for the next election coming up in 2025 to make sure that we're fairly even-handed in our representation across the county. There are two stages to this review. First of all, the one that considers the council size, and the second stage which considers the division arrangements, that is to say where the boundaries fall for the divisions. The divisions will, I'm told, and I've had on good authority, will remain within district and borough boundaries, but they may cross over parliamentary boundaries because that cannot be avoided. It is also the case that some districts and boroughs are also going through their boundary reviews as well, and in an ideal world we might want to have the district and borough reviews happen first and then the county council review happen second, but it's not going to be like that. We have what we've got, and this is the timetable that's been given to us. As part of this, there is a process that we go through. The districts and boroughs have supplied a great amount of detail to us in order for us to undertake the review of what the world will look like in about 7 or 8 years' time, so we're preparing for the future. From that, we've drawn out that the council size is about right for what it needs to do. And when we consider what is right for our for us to deliver democracy on behalf of the people we represent. We look at the workload of councillors, the caseload that they have, the committees they have to attend, the things that we have to do as councillors in order to oversee good governance on behalf of the public. The stages are set out in the report, the dates of those stages. We've had a presentation to the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which considered this report on the 13th of September. It comes to this Cabinet today, and then the consideration by full Council next month. Or was it this month? Yeah, it's next month, 13th of October. As part of this process, we have requested a review of those two divisions which are represented by 2 members each in South Staffordshire and in Cannock. We did this last time and it came back and said we needed to retain the double member division arrangements. We're asking for it again this time to see if anything has changed. So that's the background to the paper. I know that members of Cabinet are all familiar with this because we've had presentations, so that none of this should be a surprise to you. And we're making sure that political groups that perhaps aren't part of the council at the moment, so I know that the Labour group at the County Council is looking at this as well, making sure that they understand what's going on. I've asked for the Liberal Democrats and the Greens to be included as part of this process, and also independent members. And I would ask that members of the public who have an interest in this can get involved as well, particularly around the division arrangements when they come forward, because the division that you sit in will be determined in due course, and you would want to make sure that it represents a coherent division in the area that you live. Are there any questions before I go to the recommendations? Good. So the recommendations are as follows. First, note the progress and timescales for Staffordshire's electoral review. Second, agree to the proposals within the council size submission that the County Council firstly retains the current council size of 62 elected members, and second, requests a single member per division review. Third, agree that the council size submission is referred to the County Council for approval on the 13th of October 2022. And fourth, subject to the third clause being approved by Council, agree that the leader of the Council and the Deputy Chief Executive and Director for Corporate Services be authorised to finalise the details of the council size submission prior to submitting to the Boundary Commission. It is moved. All those in favour? Agreed. That is unanimous. Phew. Right, next item on the agenda is a very substantial report, which is the Multiply National Numeracy Programme. And I can count the number of pages because I can count. So, over to you.
Thank you very much, Leader. And well done for doing that tongue twister of a set of recommendations there. I hope mine will be a little bit easier to read out. Multiply is a fantastic scheme. It's a central government initiative. It's part of the government's Levelling Up programme. For my money, it recognises the most important aspect of levelling up, which is skills and people's ability to improve their lives and their fortunes. And it's much needed. Research indicates that around about half of our working age population in this country are not confident with their numeracy skills. That's something that perhaps isn't a surprise to all of us in our everyday lives. I think numeracy is something that we're all encouraged to do at school, but then unless your day-to-day encourages you to lose it a lot, they're skills that are easy to see deteriorate, and it's an area that a lot of people don't necessarily feel confident in engaging with. So this is a great government programme that aims to directly address this. Government are putting £570 million into this over the next 3 years, and Staffordshire has secured £4.2 million of that funding to deliver targeted courses that are relevant to people in our part of the world. The objectives of this will principally be to encourage more adults to engage in improving their general numeracy, encourage adults to improve their functional numeracy skills, so the things that you need for your day-to-day, such as managing your household budget and dealing with things that we all need to be able to do to live our lives, but also to encourage those who want to attain qualifications in mathematics, and the particular focus there is at level 2, which is GCSE level qualifications. And this is something that's important to our employers locally here in Staffordshire. So we as part of the process of developing our local offer, have spoken to local businesses, and research with them indicates that at least a quarter of them highlight numeracy skills as one of the key challenges they have, finding workers who have a good level of numeracy. So the outcomes from this can be quite significant if we get it right. The aim of the Multiply programme is to have a single front door that people can walk through anywhere in the country to access these services, and that there is the widest range of courses, so that there really is something for everyone. And I'll ask you to forgive me. I'm going to read out what those courses can cover. So there are courses designed to increase confidence with numbers, and those taking their first steps towards formal numeracy qualifications. Courses designed to help people manage their money and use their numeracy on household budgets. Innovative numeracy programs delivered together with employers, including courses to deliver specific numeracy skills required in their workplace. Courses aimed at people who can't apply for certain jobs because of lack of numeracy skills, or to encourage people to upskill their numeracy in their workplace. Intensive courses aimed at getting people that level 2 maths qualification, GCSE mathematics. Numeracy courses aimed at prisoners or those who've recently left prison on licence. Numeracy courses for care leavers, a very important subject for us here at the County Council, and much valued. And numeracy activities for those who are in hard-to-reach groups, those who are more isolated in our society. So it really is comprehensive, and the idea is that it's easy to access whatever level of training you might find useful in your own life, with no pressure, but with incremental opportunities to go as far as you like with this. Now, in terms of our process locally to spend that 4.2 million, we've gone through an extensive commissioning process where we've engaged with local skills providers, and there's a very broad range of those, including FE colleges, independent training advisors, private sector businesses, charities, and also universities who've expressed interest in delivering courses that fall under those categories that I've mentioned. We had 22 formal expressions of interest to participate in this, covering the whole of the county geographically, and of those 16 have been selected that we feel between them can provide the coverage that we want for Staffordshire residents and meet our needs, and details of those are provided in the appendices to this report. The programme does run over 3 years. There is a comprehensive monitoring regime to go with that, including a governance board, which will make sure that that money is being well spent through those 3 years, and that we are adaptable to the changing needs of our population and indeed our employers. So that covers, I think, the essence of the report. I'll be very happy to answer any questions that colleagues have, and then I'll read the recommendations when you're ready for them, Chair.
Councillor Price.
Thank you, and I really appreciate you bringing this forward as well. I think this is really, really important, particularly for a father who struggles to help his 12-year-old do some of his maths homework. It's mind-boggling, some of it. I'll speak about my division particularly. It's a less affluent area, and we have parents there whose maths and English skills, and particularly their numeracy skills, are not the best, but are very reluctant to come forward and just actively go out and seek to do these courses. How would we encourage or support these families to come forward and actually take up this scheme? Those are the ones that this really needs to target.
Councillor Perry.
I similarly welcome this, and I think it's a really important initiative. The thing I'd like to ask is what additionality we could provide in this, because I think numeracy is one of those skills which, like fitness, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I think as adults, and me included, becoming kind of lazy and never ever doing any mental arithmetic or, a column of figures, I would get my phone out and do it like that. Well, I was just about. Thank you for stealing my comedy act here, because I was about to say it always puzzles my wife is, how come you're in charge of finance when you can't even do that? And I said, because it's not really about numeracy. And yeah, it's Parry with an A. And so I'm prepared to admit this, Chair. It is one of those skills that over time, although you start with it, you can lose it over time. And that's why my point here, which was a serious point about additionality, which is about encouraging people to maintain your skills. I know my father who left school at 14, you know, his numeracy skills were outstanding, you know, percentages, fractions, running up columns of figures, anything you like. And if you walk into any bookies shop at any time, you'll find people with outstanding numeracy skills simply because they use them, because they want to use them. And they may not, you know, their friend down the road who doesn't frequent the bookies may have less skills. Do you know what I mean? The point here is that it's about, you know, use it or lose it. And so, you know, I just think whether this can be used as a vehicle to kind of evangelize that point a little bit more and to make sure that I've admitted it, folks. You know, I'm a sinner. I have not kept up with my numerous skills because I've been lazy. But it's important.
Councillor Jessel, is this confession time where we admit that portfolio holders...
I can't miss this opportunity. I was going to say, because I welcome this. I think it's really good. And I think the comment that Councillor Price has said about how do those people who are probably very reluctant to engage, how can we encourage them? Because it is important. And equally, the comments made about use it or lose it. When I read this report, and I thought, well, if somebody asked me about my numeracy skills, basic numeracy, I'm pretty good. I make a point of doing things in my head. And on the back of, I won't say fag packets, I shouldn't be saying that, should I? No, we're not with Stocktober. On the back of scraps of paper, because I recycle all my paper. But times have very much changed in how mathematics is taught. I mean, I'm from the era of log tables and a slide rule. When I see how young people learn mathematics now, it's like a foreign language. But I think in terms of, and I've just said to Claire here, there is a serious point in terms of using your brain, using your maths in terms of public health and ensuring a healthy brain. So I think it is about, you know, enhancing those skills for employability, but it's enhancing those skills actually to continue to have a healthy life. So I don't apologise for the slight slant, but I think it is something we do need to encourage people to use that grey matter, not only to improve your employment opportunities and your earning potential, but also to keep yourself alert, even when you're old and crotchety like me and you learnt maths with slide rules and log tables.
Before I bring Councillor White back in, I think Councillor Parry raises a good point in as much as people's functional numeracy is actually surprisingly good. So the people down the bookies can tell you the odds and calculate the odds of a particular horse race without just going like that. For those of us who are into football, I can tell you the goals per game that Harling scored, which changed against Wolverhampton Wanderers, obviously with that 3-0 result. But what was coming? So people's functional numeracy is actually a lot better than they give themselves credit for. They just don't apply it more broadly. You want to come up very briefly before I bring Councillor White in? Only
because I've probably written myself into a headline, and just wanted to make the point that I'm the same with, you know people who are interested in horse racing. I'm interested in cricket. And cricket is one of the fascinating thing about cricket, it's all about stats, and it's all about working out the numbers. It's all about run rates. It's all about averages. It's very much a numerical sport in that sense, as well as many other fascinating aspects to it. Kerry.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I just checked my Twitter, and there's no tweet about it yet that I can see. But I'm trying to draw those points together, and I think the really important thing about this programme, it is a really well-considered programme. I know we have mixed views from time to time about schemes that come out of central government. and how they might apply here on the ground. But this one really is very well considered. And its real strength is that it will offer you whatever you want to take from it. So if you want it to be a really simple brushing up on your numeracy skills, or something that gives you a bit more confidence to engage with that, and I think confidence is the key here, then it will do that. If you want it to take you further to achieve particular qualifications or get into a particular job, it will do that too. And you can move through those things at whatever pace you like. You know, if you use it to help you down the bookies, okay, and that's up to you. If you use it to help you with doing a Sudoku, you know, great, perhaps a bit better. But if it also does help people to manage their money better and to get people into better, more productive jobs, then that's the best of the lot as far as I'm concerned. So it does all of that. In terms of the point that Councillor Price made about the promotion of this, one of the reasons why I'm really pleased that the County Council and other top-tier local authorities around the country are the accountable bodies for this, is that we know that we're one of the most trusted organisations in our locality, and when we go out to our population and say, we have something you might want to get involved with, there's a high degree of trust if that comes from the County Council. We also have incredibly mature channels in terms of ways of engaging with people, including a lot of those harder to reach people, many of whom use other services of ours. So that combination of trust and reach, I think, is the reason why it's in the right hands here at the County Council and at our peer organisations around the country. I think that answers the question. So if you'd like me to move to the recommendations, I will put my teeth in. So I recommend that Cabinet note the purpose of Multiply, agree that the Director of Economy, Infrastructure and Skills, in consultation with the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Economy and Skills, that's me, be given delegated authority to, firstly, authorise the Council to enter into an agreement, an accountable body agreement, with the Department for Education, formalising the Council's role as the lead authority for Multiply in Staffordshire. Secondly, to authorise the Council to enter into an individual grant funding agreement with an appraisal and prioritisation of applications for funding with each of the identified providers best placed to meet our strategic priorities. And finally, authorise the Assistant Director for Skills and Employability to be given the delegated authority to approve any formal variations or extensions required by the accountable body agreement or to the individual grant agreements based on performance or changes in Multiply guidance. Those are the recommendations.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Agreed.
Thank you. Right, moving then to the forward plan of key decisions. Sorry, decisions taken by Cabinet members under delegated powers. There are two. The Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture approves the disposal of the Staffordshire Museums. The Staffordshire County Museum collection. And second, the Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport agrees to follow the Department for Transport guidance issued to local transport authorities to transition English National Travel Concession Schemes, ENTCS, payments between the 1st of October 2022 and the 5th of April 2023 to use previously allocated DFT grant monies to stabilise the bus network from September 2022 onwards, noting that whilst the additional short-term financial support for the bus industry has been recently announced by the government, it is anticipated that additional local financial support will be required to provide stability over the next 12 months. Councillor Williams, we've discussed this at length, and I think the bus companies have a responsibility here as well. Is there anything you'd like to just say about that before we move on?
It was added following the Cabinet meetings that this agreement to continue to support the bus companies was on the understanding that they would be looking to develop their own services to ensure that they can continue those following this 12-month period, as this will be the last opportunity for us to be able to support them with current funding strands.
I think that's a really important point to note, and thank you for making that. And if anybody needs us to re-emphasise it, shouting it from the rafters, we're willing to do so. So come on, time to step up, I think is the phrase that springs to mind. So that's decisions taken by Cabinet Member under delegated powers. The forward plan of key decisions is the next item on the agenda. They are as follows. these are all in October and in public. The award approval for the framework agreement, the provision and installation of PVCU windows, aluminium doors and ancillary work, non-domestic. I thought we'd done that, but Councillor DeVille, but we're back at it again. Nexus Trading Services Limited Annual Report 21-22, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Commercial Matters, Mark DeVille. They say you can't get enough of a good thing, and this goes to prove it. Integrated Performance Report, Quarter 2, 2022-2023, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources and myself. High Needs Capital Funding, 2022-2024, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Education and Sen, Councillor Price. And then recommissioning of the domestic abuse contract, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture, Councillor Wilson. Final recommendations for the future commissioning arrangements for supported living services in Staffordshire, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, Councillor Jessel. Early Help Strategy, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, Councillor Sutton. And in private, the Family Hub model, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, Councillor Sutton, in October. Councillor Sutton.
Just very briefly on that, Leader. That will actually be in public, but there will be a small section in private as well.
Thank you for the clarification on that. So a busy agenda for the October meeting. Moving forward to November in public, we've got the Climate Change Action Plan and Climate Change Annual Report, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Environment, Infrastructure and Climate Change. Gosh, it's been a year. Councillor Tagg. And then into December, review of business case for the development of council-owned older people's nursing homes, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Health and Care, Councillor Jessel. Again in public in December, Homes for Ukraine, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Communities and Culture, Councillor Wilson. Then in December, the Strategic Plan and Medium-Term Financial Strategy 23 to 28, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, but involves everybody. And then in January, Strategic Plan and Medium-Term Financial Strategy 23 to 28, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, Councillor Parry. And then moving forward, finally into February in public, Integrated Performance Report Quarter 3, 2022 to 2023, brought to you by the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources and myself. And that is the forward plan of key decisions. Next item on the agenda is the exclusion of the public. I move that the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business which involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in the paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A as amended of the Local Government Act 1972 indicated below. Cheerio, Kerry.